and it is a nice Monday morning, and welcome to Brand DIY. We've got a few new members. I'd like to welcome you aboard if you're checking out this live stream. And it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a fun one. It's one of my favorite topics out there. It's all about the Grateful Dead. Now, if you're not familiar with the Grateful Dead, I'm not sure who you are, but everybody pretty much knows about Grateful Dead. What a lot of folks don't realize about the Grateful Dead, though, is that they are also very brilliant marketers in a very counterintuitive way. And I think they came by it naturally. They just stuck to their values and their personality and what they believed was the right thing. And it turned into a great marketing strategy. So that's what I want to talk to you about today. I first got to know the Grateful Dead's marketing strategy through one of the folks who used to work with me. And he used to follow the Dead around, drive around North America with a bunch of his friends, and they would go to Grateful Dead shows and just hang out. And I could never quite figure that out because, you go to a Bowie concert and it's great, but you only go to one. You don't go follow Bowie around North America in a Volkswagen bus and go to show after show after show after show. And that's when my friend told me about what happened at these shows. They were less a show and more of a sort of a community gathering, a gathering of the tribes. And at these shows, the band was actually kind of a side attraction. The main attraction was everybody, all the Deadheads, they call themselves, all the Deadheads gathering together and selling each other's stuff. T-shirts, homemade crafts, edibles, weed, stuff like that. One of the things that was really interesting, though, was one of the prime things they used to sell to each other or give to each other were bootleg recordings of other Dead concerts. Now, can you imagine going to a Selena Gomez concert or Taylor Swift concert and everybody being gathered in the foyer of the arena and giving each other bootlegs of other Taylor Swift concerts? It just wouldn't happen. That's insanity. But that's the way the Deadheads used to get together and or still do get together and show their spirit for the band. And bootlegs, there's just thousands of these bootlegs out there, and they sort of they're judged by the quality of the bootleg, how good the recording was, what the date was, all kinds of factors. So it's almost like trading baseball cards, except what you're doing, you're trading what for most artists would be a highly illegal or frowned upon thing, which is the recordings for free of their own show. So, but that's sort of what got me intrigued by the Dead, was this whole idea of this community of Deadheads that followed them around, recording their shows for free, not getting busted for it. In fact, it being encouraged, swapping these recordings, swapping merchandise, selling stuff, buying stuff, and just hanging out together. What was behind this? So the thing is about the Grateful Dead, most kids, if they say they want to start a band, they're 12 years old and they just got a guitar, I'd be pretty certain that those kids would not want to start a band like the Grateful Dead. The Grateful Dead, in their entire career, and mind you, they've been around since the late 60s, the entire career of the Grateful Dead, they have had one top 40 hit. One hit in their entire career. They have been written off. It's almost like a running joke. They're written off as some quirky hippie band. However, they grossed over $350 million while Jerry Garcia, they're sort of their icon, their figurehead, while Jerry Garcia was still alive. And they have garnered another $100 million since he died. In fact, today, John Mayer, a rock star in his own right, has joined the Grateful Dead. And he tours the country, and he's absolutely magical stepping in. Nobody could replace Jerry Garcia, but he has definitely put his imprint on the band. And he fully buys into this whole idea too. So they've made $350 million plus $100 million after Jerry Garcia died. And that is not counting record sales. And they've sold a ton of records and obviously free bootlegs. And those concerts, $23 a piece. They've made that money on concerts. Now, when was the last time you tried to get Taylor Swift tickets? And were they $23 a piece? So there you go. That's one thing that you should pay attention to. 23 bucks a piece, Grateful Dead tickets, $350 million just on concert sales. How did they do this? They did it because they created a culture where their true fans, a small army of true fans, showed up. And the Grateful Dead, in exchange, focused all of their love on that audience. They didn't spend their time trying to reach out to people all over the place. They just said, you know, if you're into us, you're into us. And if you're not into us, well, God bless you. They didn't rely on radio or TV or PR to get the word out about themselves. In fact, what they did, they got their fans to get the word out. I mentioned the bootlegs. They got their fans to pass out free recordings of themselves to other fans and compare recordings and turn this into like a cult activity where people could compare and compare quality and see who had the best bootlegs. And what they're doing is basically just passing out the merchandise for the Grateful Dead to say, this is an awesome band, this is a great recording, you should check them out. They focused on the extremes of what they loved. They focused on live touring, on playing live shows. They focused on being a jam band like Fish. So they wouldn't put together tight little songs. They would play one song for 20 minutes and the fans would go wild. And the folks who were recording the bootlegs would know that every single time that a certain song was played, it would be played like that the only time ever. Because every time they played that song, it would be a new jam and they would play it in a different way, which made every single recording unique. And they gave their fans plenty to talk about. They were a very, very colorful, fun band. You know, they sort of personified the whole hippie point of view on life and being outspoken and being fun and being sarcastic and having a perspective and sticking it to the man. And they're just a fun band. So how did this work? Because if you think about it, as a marketer or as an entrepreneur or founder, you're probably going, yeah, that sounds wonderful. Just do what you want to do. Just tell everybody to peace out and give away your stuff for free. And how does that actually work? How can you make money? How can you create $350 million in concert ticket sales and $100 million after Jerry Garcia died? So $450 million. How can you do that? Well, there is no shortchanging a few things that the Grateful Dead had. One, talent. They are incredibly talented musicians. If you listen to them jam on stage, these guys are tight. And most of them are fairly elderly now, and they're still tight. They're really, really good. The second thing, persistence. If you are interested in starting a company that's going to go from 0 to IPO in 6 months, then you do not want to follow this model. If you want to build a company that lasts a good long time, if you want to build the next Patagonia, you might want to check into this model. Persistence. The Grateful Dead play on average about 146 shows a year. And it took, at this pace, over a decade for them to become an overnight success. Their original shows, they used to play for 5,000 people. Now they play for 100,000 people. But for a long time, they just said, you know what? We love this music. We love being a jam band. We love hanging out with our fans. Let's just keep doing it. Screw it. So it took persistence. If you are looking to make yourself an overnight success, don't follow this model. Finally, the band had the guts to be quirky. The band had the guts to be quirky. If you look at the band members themselves, if you look at the gatherings of the tribes of the Grateful Dead, the whole hippie ethos, They're quirky. And, if you want to go mainstream and clean yourself up, you'd probably be a success a lot quicker than if you were with the Dead. And, it takes a lot of guts when you see bands like the Doors or the Zombies or even the Turtles outselling your band for a long time. But they stuck to their guns because they knew what their mission and their vision was, and they stuck to their guns and they just did it. So, what are the big learnings for entrepreneurs? What can you take from the Grateful Dead and incorporate into your own marketing? Well, you know what? You may just be Taylor Swift, in which case you don't need to listen to this podcast or this live stream. You may be Taylor Swift. You may be just churning out the hits, but you're probably not. You're probably not going to be the next Taylor Swift of the business world. You are probably going to be far more successful if you make a smaller number of people insanely happy. And if you commune with those people, if you actually communicate with them and say, you know what, what's going on in your life, man? Here's what's going on in our life. We're making this stuff. Do you want to see this stuff that we're making? Do you want to try some? Here, I'll give some to you for free. Don't worry about it. It's not a hassle. So you have to acknowledge that you're probably not going to be the next overnight success. That's the first thing that you can probably learn from marketing like the Grateful Dead. You have to realize that making a small audience insanely happy is probably more valuable than making a large audience maybe kind of perhaps know who you are. Having a small audience that's crazy about you is a lot more powerful than having a large audience that can barely tell you from the next band or the next product. So there are brands out there that did this, a lot of very successful brands. There are brands like Patagonia, brands like Apple. For a long time, Apple was just a niche player in the computer market until they weren't. Tesla did it. Smart Suites, local story, they did it. The person who started Smart Suites was very happy to build her tribe on Instagram and just talk to those folks all the time. Not a penny was spent in advertising to anybody else. She grew her tribe organically. Now, if you're going to do this, you have to learn from the Dead. It's going to take a while. Patagonia took a long time. And if it's going to take a while, you better be sure that you're in it for the right reasons. If you look at Yvon Chouinard at Patagonia, he started the company because he loved climbing and surfing. And he couldn't find any climbing gear that anybody made that was good. And so he, being a blacksmith by trade, started making his own climbing gear. And then his friends wanted to buy it, and more friends wanted to buy it. And then begrudgingly, because he wanted to be out climbing, he started building a company. Oh, well, I guess I got to make this stuff and sell it if I want to go climbing next year. But it was never his intent to start out and create a blockbuster clothing company. So you have to check your mission, vision, and values to know that what you're into this for is because you just really, really love it. You are a passionate gardener, or you are a passionate car racer, or you are a passionate hairstylist, and that is what you love. And if you were making no money on it, you would still keep doing it. So that's what you have to realize, and that is the secret to the Grateful Dead success. Being passionate about what they do, being happy to make a smaller audience insanely happy instead of reaching out to a bigger audience that doesn't care about them, and to keep at it, knowing that you have the talent, you have the chops, you have the quality music or the quality product in your case, that people will recognize you eventually. And if they don't, then be happy making a little less money, but doing it in the long run, knowing that you're doing what you love. So that's all for today. I hope you have a terrific day. And I have a bit of a call out. If you recall, we were working on Biba, the soap project. And because of unforeseen circumstances, the person who was working on the PR for that project, if you remember, we all banded together, professionals in the branding world, and we said, you know what, we're going to contribute our superpowers to help make Biba successful. and our PR person for unforeseen circumstances had to drop out of the project. So right now, I am looking for a PR professional who can help us donate their time to make Biba Botanica rather, the soap product, successful. And that's it for today. Tomorrow I've got a great interview with Jerry Grattan. He built the culture and the teams and turned O2E brands, that is Got Junk and Shack Shine and You Move Me. Jerry was the guy who created the culture in those companies. And he happens to be a great friend of mine, and I've got him on the show tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Pacific. So dial in tomorrow and have yourselves a great day today.